the entirety of Aragorn's life story so that you can fall asleep. This is going to be like one of those really boring history lectures from college. You know, just Aragorn, boring old Aragorn, everybody's favorite topic. Let's do this. Aragorn was born in the year 259 of the Third Age in the early morning during the month of Raymil. That would be equivalent to somewhere between March and April of our calendar. His father was Arathorn, son of Elisor, grandson of Araphant, great-grandson of and great-great-grandson of King Aldarion, the only king of the Anduin Edain, before the downfall of New. So, yeah, Aragorn was quite literally a king in waiting. He was meant to rule over all of the kingdoms of men in Middle-earth after Sauron was defeated. Now his mother was Gilrain, daughter of King Elendil of Nurnin, and granddaughter of King Aragorn II. Yes, Aragorn's parents were related, but hey, this isn't what everybody's related anyway. Queen Regent Arwen had to leave Minas Tirith and go into hiding with her husband, Lord Elruir, when Sauron took control of the city, so Aragorn grew up without ever having met his parents. Instead, he was raised by his maternal grandfather, Elendil, and paternal grandmother, Mor. When Aragorn was but a babe, Elendil brought him to the House of Healing in Minas Tirith to be cared for by the Queen's hand. Gloin, daughter of Finduilas, Lady of Dol Amroth. Gloin became a sort of adoptive mother to Aragorn. She nursed him back to health when he came down with a fever at age 18 months. And in his youth, she taught him to read and write in the common tongue, as well as the history of Gondor. Later, when he was older, she even tutored him in military strategy and tactics. Now, while Aragorn lived with the kingsmen in Minas Tirith, the kings of the House of Hadar raised him as a warrior. Strider, the son of Bartle, taught him how to ride and hunt and fish, and also how to track animals and survive in the wild. In fact, Aragorn became such an expert tracker that he could follow the trail of a single hair or a drop of blood. Barahir, who we know as Boromir, was Aragorn's close friend and fellow student in these martial arts, and they trained together for many years. Even though Aragorn was destined to be a great king, he did not look down on any profession and took great pride in learning everything there was to learn about the world around him. He learned the trades of men, blacksmith, mason, cobbler, tailor, shepherd, hunter, and weaver. He could make weapons and armor. He knew how to dig wells and build houses and plant crops. He could cure sickness and tend wounds. He knew the plants and herbs and flowers and trees and could name every bird by its call. Aragorn was called the greatest tracker of men, the greatest swordsman of men, and the greatest king of men that ever lived. He was also a renowned archer, so good that he never missed his mark. And while some elves of the West learned a few tricks from Aragorn, none could match his skill with the bow. Aragorn spoke 6 languages fluently, or 7 if you count the black speech backwards. Sindarin, the language of the elves, Quenya, the language of the high elves, the language of Númenórean men, Adunika, the language of the black Númenórean men, Western, the common tongue of all men, and Orc black speech, which he learned mainly for purposes of interrogation. Aragorn was skilled in all aspects of warfare and battle, both on foot and on horseback, with sword, spear, and bow. But he preferred to live in peace, hating war and bloodshed. He was wise beyond his years, a counselor and diplomat, as well as a warrior and king. He was known far and wide throughout Middle-earth as a healer, curing many sick people with his knowledge of herbs and tinctures. He was a singer and a storyteller too, and he played several instruments, including the flute, the harp, the lute, and the drum. Aragorn was a great lord and leader of men, inspiring loyalty and love in all who followed him. He was tall and strong and swift, with long flowing dark hair and beard and keen gray eyes. He dressed in the fashion of the Northmen, with a cloak fastened with a brooch, hose, boots, a belt with a pouch and clasp, and carried a whip. Later in life, after becoming king, he wore a crown of gold and jewels and bore the heirloom of kingship of Gondor the Evil. He drove a horse named Brago, the son of Folk, and rode a great white horse named Hasta. Snowmane was killed in the Battle of the Fords of Izon, but Brago survived the entire War of the Ring and remained loyal to Aragorn until his death. After the fall of Nurnin and the sinking of the Nurnin royal line, Aragorn became the chief of all the Númenórean bloodlines, giving him claim to the throne of God. However, Aragorn didn't really care much about being king at first. That whole thing was kind of thrust upon him. He wasn't really looking for power or glory. Aragorn preferred to wander the wilds of Middle-earth alone, traveling to distant lands and meeting new people. When he was younger, he traveled south to Umbar in where he bought and sailed a ship and set out to sea for 7 months. He went east to the Blue Mountains and Furodway, where he made a staff from a sprig of Malorn that had survived the scouring of the earth. And he went north to the furthest reaches of the North Downs and Breeland. During his travels, Aragorn met and befriended many interesting characters. For instance, he once helped an old man named Orifin rebuild his mill in Bree, and he became good friends with the innkeeper Barlaman Butter. Aragorn also freed a dwarf named Gloin from captivity in the dungeons of the Blue Mountains and accompanied him on his way back to the Lonely Mountain. And of course, Aragorn met Gandalf in the Prancing Pony in Bree on 2 different occasions. During his adventures, Aragorn often used aliases such as Thorongil Ranger of the North or Strider son of Ered. And he also sometimes identified himself as Estel, meaning hope, which was a prophecy foretold to him by the wizard Radagast. Later in life, Aragorn settled down and married 3 wives. Arwen Evenstar, daughter of Elrond, and they had 2 sons, Eldarion and Elruir. Then there was an unnamed woman who lived in the Brown Lands near the river and she gave birth to a son Illidan and a daughter Elruir. Now, Aragorn's son Eldarion went on to become the first king of the reunited kingdoms of Gondor and Arnor. He reigned for 73 years, longer than any king before or after him, until his death in the year 120 of the Fourth Age. After the defeat of Sauron, Aragorn reclaimed the ancient ancestral lands of his forefathers in the north, founding the new kingdom of Arnor and reuniting the kingdoms of Gondor and Arnor after nearly 1,000 years of separation. He ruled over all of the free peoples of Middle-earth, men, dwarves, elves, except the blue wizards and Intis, of course, and hobbits. He led the armies of the west to victory against the forces of Mordor and the east at the Battle of the Fords of Izon, the Battle of the Hornburg, the Battle of the Fields, and the Battle of the Morana. He was instrumental in defeating Sauron and bringing peace and prosperity to Middle-earth. Aragorn died in the year 120 of the Fourth Age, 62 years after the destruction of the One Ring. He had reigned over Gondor for 40 years and over Arnor for 33 years, making him one of the longest reigning kings in all of Middle-earth history. He died in the year 120 of the Fourth Age, after 62 years after the fall of Sauron. He had reigned over Gondor for 40 years and over Arnor for 33 years, making him one of the longest reigning kings in all of Middle-earth history. That was the entire story of Aragorn. Do you think that helped you fall asleep? Comment your favorite character below. And don't forget to subscribe.